Annika is we give her a name because she's living and breathing, right? She's making decisions every 15 minutes based on traffic spikes to the website or orders or anything else that we want to feed her.
I fell in love with, partnerships and relationships. And even though things now are so technical and everything's so fast, partnerships and relationships are really the baseline of it.
Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and this is episode 47 in season 2 of Insider Interviews with media and marketing pros. I got a couple of pros for you today from marketing architects. Now, a couple of years ago, I had Aaron Lange in a hotel room with me. I should explain. We were trying to record an episode from CES along with the head of media, Catherine Wallstead, and the three of us were perched on a bed, believe it or not. We got good content then, but now we're in much better settings, a much more comfortable surrounding for recording good content. And now he's also back with Nikki, the VP of Media Partnerships at Marketing Architects. So hello, everybody. We're not in bed.
Oh, hi, Evie. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again. Yeah, the last time that we were together was at CES this year. And maybe we'll get into a little bit of what we saw, but I want to look to the future. Actually, I want to look to the past. Aaron, I'm going to start with you because you have some chops in building this company that is the all-inclusive agency. You're now CTO of Marketing Architects, and I know that this was kind of built from the ground up to do things differently. And your website even says, we're so done with the way TV was always done. Why did you build it that way to do what differently?
Yeah, really just challenge the status quo. All agencies are looking for a different way to do things. Ours was to challenge the idea of setting up all this upfront audience stuff and really tackle it with performance-based metrics driving the strategy.
And you're an all-inclusive agency. What does that mean?
All-inclusive for us means we do everything for our brand. So we'll do all of the initial analytics to figure out where we should go. We actually do all these creation of the spots themselves. We do all of the media buying, and then we do all the attribution measurement. And we need that all to be one holistic cycle so that we can judge performance from top to bottom.
Oh, I love that. Are you kind of unique in the world of doing that?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, a lot of agencies will break into specializations for various things. So if you were a brand, you might work with 3 different agencies to put your brand on TV. You'd hire somebody to do some analysis to figure out what the audience stuff should be. You'd hire somebody else to do the actual creative, and then you'd hire a media company to actually place the media. We do it all for you.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to jump over to Nikki for a second. So speaking of media, Nikki, what are you doing over there, Miss VP of Media Partnerships?
So our team, like Aaron had mentioned, we are the arm that really places all of your media within market. We get those initial insights and results back from our research team to really understand where is this audience watching, where is their target audience, and then our team goes out and sources the buys and where we place and everything. And we do that in conjunction with our proprietary AI buying platform, and it's called Annika.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So that was developed several years ago, and it really has revolutionized the way that we bring media plans into market. Because it is really fragmented out there, and we have to understand all those different dynamics at any given time. And Annika helps us with that precision and getting your brand into market in the right spot.
And I have a feeling that the guy sitting virtually next to you had a little something to do with building Annika. Is that
Just
right?
a little something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll let him talk about that because he and his team are brilliant, and they built that from the ground up.
I do recall this from a couple of years ago. Aaron, what does Annika do differently? Why did you go from renting to owning a DSP?
Yeah. So again, as we stated earlier, we really try to do things differently. And the approach to that really forced our hand. We actually didn't intend to build the DSP. We looked at using some of the systems that are out there, but it just was not able to be the flexible nature that we wanted, where we can have this ability to kind of scour every opportunity out there and look for the exact right opportunity for that brand, for that campaign, and then make a purchase on it. And then feed back the results real time. Annika is kind of, we give her a name because she's living and breathing, right? She's making decisions every 15 minutes based on traffic spikes to the website or orders or anything else that we want to feed her.
Wow. Okay. So speaking of the personal, I think that there is a path to how you got so involved with this, because you were raised in a really entrepreneurial mindset. I think I read that you were accepted to college at 15, but that your family was basically a family of a startup mentality too. Can you give us a little bit of the personal side?
Yeah. I kind of had a very interesting non-technical background. I grew up on a farm in Southwest Minnesota. And, farmers by default are business owners, and they are very savvy to that. That's my mom's side. My dad's side actually owned a ton of small businesses. That's just what they've always done, small town USA. And so, I had an uncle who probably got me into the technology side because he had a franchise Radio Shack back in the day and got me into computers and all that stuff at an early age. And my dad owned a 1-hour photo shop. And so I've always been around kind of be your own boss mentality, entrepreneurship, looking for a problem within the business and opportunity, and saying, well, we could go. My uncle who had the Radio Shack eventually did videos and did, different things. Anything that the town needed, he found a way to supply that. So yeah, I definitely had kind of that nice background in both sides to that entrepreneurial spirit.
I see. I think that makes so much sense, especially when you bring up the Radio Shack evolution. Boy, I remember them. Nikki, how about you? What led you to media partnerships? Because you've also actually brought marketing architects along from, speaking of radio and TV, to really focus in the TV world.
Yeah. So when I started at Marketing Architects several years back, we were primarily a radio agency at that time, working with, all of our local stations, and then also on a national front. And when I started, it was such an exciting time because we were really just trying to acquire new partnerships and really go out and understand, the needs of our stations and kind of marry that up to how we can support stations by not only, sending over spots, but being a true partner for them. And so that's really where I fell in love with, partnerships and relationships. And even though things now are so technical and everything's so fast and everything, partnerships and relationships are really the baseline of it. And so I still love going to, events like we were just at CES and all the different events throughout the year, because it's just a great way to really build that foundation with your content.
Bring in the IRL, as they say. That's such an interesting evolution. And how much on local do you still get involved in now that you're primarily TV?
Yeah, so local is definitely part of our media offering on both a linear and a streaming side. And we really go at it with an approach of, TV is TV now, right? So we're really breaking down those silos in terms of, okay, we're just watching broadcasts, or we're just watching cable, or we're just watching streaming. When you're watching television now, sometimes I even forget, what platform am I on? And so all of those different platforms play a role in the overall ecosystem and how your ROI is really driven at the end of the day.
So you can be all things to all advertisers.
Yeah,
wow.
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, it sounds like because you are all inclusive, you guys are all playing cymbals with your knees, I think. So
there's always something new to learn about. And Aaron's team does a fantastic job of just continuing to really, evolve our platform to stay at the forefront of all of these changes. And it makes it easier for our buying team to understand, and also for Annika to understand that ecosystem.
Erin, do you think that helps you guys corral cost, give you more control? Tell me about some of the value propositions of marketing architects from a technology standpoint.
Yeah, I think the two biggest ones is definitely cost and control. You never want to have a third party be part of your main ecosystem, because theoretically they could, not mean, but they could raise price or whatever and change your whole thing without you doing anything. But the other things, what Nikki was hinting to, is having our own technology allows new opportunities. We get prospects come in all the time that are just different. And I love the fact that we can be like, well, let's learn from that. How can we adapt Annika for that? Because there's got to be other brands that also do that. And so I love saying more yeses than nos, right? When it comes to some of that stuff.
Yeah. More yes is always good. It's good. Probably makes your life easier too, Nikki, in trying to seal the deals.
It does. Yes.
Okay. Now, the other question that I hinted at before, as we talk about evolution, well, let's use the word AI. How are you incorporating AI into both your tech and your media planning and partnerships? Erin, I'll start with you so that segues into how that's getting used by people like Nikki.
Yeah, AI was definitely first and foremost something that we looked at 2 years ago, so much that I created a full new department underneath me, just hiring people to focus in on that. And their main focus was early on to sit down with each and every one of our business units, whether it's the media team with Nikki or our analytic team or even our accounting team, and say, what could we do? And I wanted to have some domain experts that were staying kind of on that cutting edge of all the advancements on AI, and then hear the business processes, hear the problems, and say, here's an area that can help. So all of our business units, including media, have had some tools built or adoptions or third-party LLMs brought in so that we can speed up whatever it is anywhere. So about half my team is now underneath the AI umbrella, as we've built out so many teams to maintain them and continue to build them and stuff. So when I get asked that question, it's a great question, but it's everything.
Yeah.
Like, we've touched everything, creative, accounting, everything has used different parts and different types of AI, all sorts of things.
Yeah. Nikki, before I jump to you, and this sort of touches you as well, I have been listening to your company's own podcast. Congratulations. And you do a really good job of being explanatory. You even have a short form version that tackles a tool. But in a recent episode, your chief creative officer, Steve Babcock, he talked about the need to combine emotional storytelling and performance, all grounded in research. It makes sense, right? We're on the same page. But he said, because you incorporate a little AI into the creative, that team calls itself creative engineers. I kind of love that. Creative engineers. It is the best of both worlds. So, Nikki, as an all-inclusive agency, how do you interface with that creative team and kind of make sure that creative and performance are working together and in service of your partners?
Like Erin had mentioned, AI has really touched every single business unit here at Marketing Architects and just made us faster, smarter, better equipped to bring those right messages into market. Yeah, and I love the name creative engineers too, because it's not just about generating ideas. We engineer creative systems and really embrace that relationship between, that human ingenuity and then creativity, and then power it with the, backing of AI technology. Mm-hmm. And I think a great example of that is we've kind of cut out all of those old ways of, hey, now we have to concept, and then we have to write the scripts, and then we have to storyboard, and then there's animatics. AI has sped that process up so much and allows us to really get that testing out in market so much quicker. And we now have creative concepts that can be adjusted on the fly. So if we're placing something in the Northeast, maybe that has a little bit of a Boston accent, right? Or if we're placing something in the South, maybe we can just tweak the way that sounds a little bit. And I think that's such a great way to be really smart about the creative messaging in the market.
I love that. It's a really good example. And then also all of this together, Erin, I'm trying to remember the example you gave me. It had to do with like spend $5, but make it, you know what I'm talking about. Tell me that story and how that applies again.
Yeah. Again, when people ask kind of what makes us different, I use the analogy of we use performance to drive where we're going to place the dollars versus trying to do that all up front. And so if we had a $10 budget, we're going to take $5 and spend it as smart as we can, just generally based on our best practices, but pause on that really quickly and then take the results of that and then figure out where we're going to spend the next $3. And we're going to double down on things that are performing well. And then the last $2 on things that even perform even better. And so that's why we had to build our own tech. And Annika, she's constantly getting feedback from all of our clients' websites and orders and different things to kind of figure out where's that next investment and use performance to drive really all of the advancements and buying strategies.
I can see why this company is called Marketing Architects. Everything all flows together. You're a well-oiled machine. Nikki, there are some things on your website. I'm sure that there's like a cool case study or something you can brag on about how this all came together for a client. What can you tell us specifically?
You know, we had actually just recently had a client come to us and they were really, really focused on local linear. And that's like we were just talking about. That's something that is definitely within our capabilities, our buying capes. But we also understood that, okay, they need to be in this particular market at this time and test here, which is a little bit easier to do on the streaming side just because it is so dynamic, it's real time, it's programmatic. But we all came together and really tried to understand, okay, how do we need to kind of modify our systems? Or like Erin was mentioning, we own our own tech. So how can we bring that same type of precision on the streaming side into linear and execute this that much faster?
Got it.
And so it really was a collaborative effort by everybody. I know, Erin, you and your team and creative had a huge part in that too, if you wanted to elaborate on that.
Yeah, no, it was a good problem to solve. And what I got excited about was, you know, when we heard about this, it wasn't, let's just customize something for this client. It was like, is this something that we want to start offering? And the answer was, I think so, yes. And so then we were able to look at it more abstract and really tackle it all the way top to bottom. But we needed to find new data partners to give us new data for certain things. We needed to make obvious changes to Annika to support it. And now we can offer that, you know, it's a great new addition to it. But that wasn't like on our roadmap or planned out. That came out of an opportunity, and we kind of had to pause other things and say, this is what we want to add and enhance to our offering. And now we have it.
So you had to have your CTO hat on, and Nikki, you had to have your empathy hat on, and you guys had to be, I'll use that word that everybody loves, it's so important, nimble. Yeah?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Cool. That's great. Now, speaking of hats on, Erin, you're not without your sports hat. And what I kind of love about your website and your own branding for Marketing Architects is that as you scroll over your headshots, they flip into the personal side. So, Erin, I know a little about you from our conversation a couple years ago that your drug of choice for a hobby is volleyball.
Correct.
Yeah. All right.
Yes. Yep.
What's happened? How'd you get into that?
A quick story around it is I grew up in a very small town. Everybody played a sport for high school. It was just, you had to just fill out the teams. And so volleyball was not one of those. So I played basketball. I'm not very tall in today's standards, but I could jump back in the day. I'm pretty good. And so I get to college. I'm playing some pickup basketball, and two guys are underneath the hoop, and they're arguing about a foul or something like that. And I'm like, happens every time. We're just playing for fun, they're fighting, it's such a physical thing. And I look over and there's people setting up a volleyball net over on the other side. And I look over them, I look at these two guys arguing, and I just rolled a basketball to those, and I just walked over. I said, hey, can I start to play? And I just fell in love instantly with that sport. And so now I've traveled around the world. I've played over in Italy. I got to play some, yeah.
Wow.
And I met my wife playing volleyball. All my kids played. My son now plays for Nebraska.
Is your son's name Spike?
No, it wasn't that extreme. No.
That's awesome. And Nikki, your bio says that yoga is how you recharge, not because Aaron's driving you nuts or being nimble is driving you nuts, but for you, it sounds like yoga could be an Olympic sport too. Tell me about how you got into that.
Yeah, so I've been practicing yoga for about 20 years now, and it's still something that, I really place a lot of importance on, especially right now when it's only 2 degrees outside in Minneapolis, and you're able to go into a 95-degree heated room and just stretch out and really, get a great workout in. But aside from that, it's such a great way to just recharge your mind, your body, your spirit, and just kind of stay grounded in what's important.
You guys are awesome. I love that you are grounded, especially as we talk about AI and virtual things. But since we're on the topic of sports, there are certain audiences that we try to capture. What should marketers understand about, let's say, sports audiences today? What's different than it was a few years ago?
Yeah, I think the biggest evolution in sports is just the way that people are consuming that, right? So if you're watching, like right now, we've got the Super Bowl coming up, and we just had all of the NFL playoffs and the college football championship. Before, the only way to really watch that was to go to your major sports networks or ESPN, and that's on the national feed, and that's how you watch it. But now we have so many of these other platforms coming in and starting to air live sports. So you have Netflix, you've got, Amazon Prime, we've got YouTube, everybody has a stake in the game. And it really allows for clients to, like you said before, be nimble and understand how to get in front of those events at the right time. We do a great job at MA, helping them kind of navigate that world. But it's just ever changing. And so it's exciting, but you just have to stay on the forefront of exactly where those sporting events are, especially within the live sports, because it's such a great way of reaching those incremental audiences or some of those like TV viewers.
And you can deliver all of it.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. And are there other like key calendar moments or events or anything that advertisers are asking you for a lot more, or that you're excited to deliver that was a challenge before?
Yeah, I think, there's always those high impact kind of cultural moments. Like we've got the World Cup coming up this summer. We have, like I had mentioned, the Olympics starting in a few weeks here. But aside from that, we really do a great job within our teams to understand how are we reaching that primary audience? What's their composition of watching streaming and linear? And then how can we marry that all together? So I think that, those cultural moments are still important, but it's really about how to kind of reach that broad audience and really understand that marketing effectiveness.
When we were at CES, we had the opportunity to meet with NBC, and we were talking about the Olympics as we prepped our opportunities. And one thing, to your point, that I thought was very interesting is they were offering us as an agency the ability to take some of our brands and put them on their sporting events, but also on kind of their back end, like personal, the backstory of and we could separate that. So, maybe we have a brand or two that is wanting to be more on that kind of personal life type feel versus the sport thing. That seemed like a new opportunity where they were actually separating those out on either different channels or different opportunities, whatever. I thought that was really neat and something that we definitely plan to take advantage of.
Yeah, sounds like you guys are on the same page about offering comprehensive opportunities no matter where the audience is
Exactly.
going, or yeah. And so your performance data helps you track and find and suggest, and Annika takes the ball and runs with it, so to speak. Okay. So just as a projection, since again, we were at CES and we all saw some scary robots who could deal cards at blackjack tables. They're that dexterous now. But is there anything that you're projecting for the future, or any wish list item you have that you wish advertisers understood or embraced more, or what you're excited about for the future?
Yeah, I think the future hold that I'm very interested about, and I would definitely keep the advertisers in the loop on, is more and more inventory is coming out.
Yes.
Whether it's through things that used to be kind of isolated and what they called walled garden is now starting to leak out. But also I'm looking forward to a lot more AI allowing small independent studios or even single contributors to create content. I always go back to, for those old enough, the Blair Witch kind of concept, right? Where you had somebody just create a movie with very, very limited resources and stuff, but they had this vision, this idea, and it kind of went viral back in the day before viral was a thing. That's going to be, it's coming if it's not already here. And how do advertisers take advantage of that? Like, how are their partners that they're working with looking at all angles, to your point? People who watch the big Super Bowl are also watching other things. And so, while we put some of our brands on Super Bowl, if that's what they really want, we also really pride ourselves on finding those same people watching whatever else they're also watching.
Right, exactly. And you know how to find them. I love it. That's a great, great point. Inventory is everywhere.
Yeah.
Nikki, what's your wish list or thing that you think is so cool about the future?
Yeah, what gives me so much optimism and just excitement for the future is that, the fundamentals of TV still work. Video builds memory and emotion, and TV continues to drive really strong business results. And we are so enriched in the data and just like knowing how, things are going to project and things like that. But our team was just reading the other day that, this is from eMarketer, that in 2026, adults 18 plus are expected to spend just over 5 hours per day watching TV, which is nearly 40% of their time with media. And that's streaming and linear TV combined. But that to me still makes me so excited about how people are consuming their media, and that it's such a significant part of how they watch that every single day.
So you guys are well poised for the future. And I'll leave it with a line from your site that's big and bold and in your face. It says, it's not about brand or sales. TV does both. And I know I'm going to sound like a commercial, but Marketing Architects does it all. Jazz hands.
Well, you got it. That's right.
Erin, Lange, Nikki, Ercola, thank you so much for joining on Insider Interviews with Media and Marketing Pros.
Thank you, Evie.
Thank you.
So just to wrap it up, I hope you got some good insider scoop from this episode of Insider Interviews. And I would love it if you would share, like, comment, review, or maybe even donate to buymeacoffee.com/mossappeal if you want to tip me for this. And I also want to thank John Clayton for composing my theme music, Jim Mullen for being producer extraordinaire, and you for listening, watching, following Insider Interviews wherever you get good B2B content.